Hello, welcome again. How are you doing today,
Hello.
Cheryl?
I'm awesome, Arlana. How are you?
Good, good. We got our first little bit of snow just this afternoon.
It's actually very pretty outside. It is
Yes.
very pretty to walk out there and stuff. It's beautiful.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So as we were getting ourselves set up this morning or just now, I kind of went, okay, I'm going to shuffle some cards. What messages for today? And it kind of leads into what we thought about. So I picked the Seven of Pentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And I really some roots and growth and expansion, everything connected together kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that pretty?
Yes.
So, and it's interesting because I suggested that we have a talk today about our journey and people in our paths, and like you said, what we were just talking about things that we're learning and doing. Um, a pause, states of gratitude, reflecting on your journey. So, about the year coming in advance, this is their last year, waiting to harvest the fruits of your labor, a sign to keep going. You've been
Mm.
doing the work and your wildly successful roots are growing. You may not see the fruits of your labor yet. Know that they exist and that any lack you are feeling is simply residual energy that's being worked through. It's time to fall into faith and to pause and give thanks. Realize that you are living, breathing result of all your memories, hopes, and hard work. Keep going. This moment gives you a divine interlude to revisit your purposes and direction. Your arrival is possible only after you pinpoint the destination. Has your journey shifted so much that you are originally germinated is not the thing you desired to harvest? What needs to change to satisfy your deepest intentions? If you're feeling any frustration or lack of progress, remember that giant dreams are not built in a day. As I give thanks for what I'm about to harvest, I know that my life is headed in the right direction.
Lovely. So let's maybe just take a minute and do that. Let's do a couple of nice deep breaths and breathe in, the clarity and the love and let go of what we need to let go of for the new year. So let's do that.
All right. Three of them.
And so
I feel
what
more relaxed already.
I do too. So you know what I saw in that card too. I mean, with it being the Pentacles, we're talking about, manifestation, we're talking about the tangible physical abundance coming in, but I also saw the reminder of being grounded. It's the root system down into
100%.
the earth, right? And
Yeah.
I do that when I do my breaths is I quite often, breathe in and bring the light in and bring it down into the earth for grounding. And this is a time of change, but it's also a time of, of hibernation and, you know, kind of letting go so we can prepare for the new year. So, maybe it's time to just slow down a little bit.
Absolutely. Doing the grateful fours really can shift your energy. And as we are in a numerology life cycle switch over change, this is the number 9, 2025. This is a big time for the final grateful. What have I done? What I'm so happy what I have. What am I getting ready for the journey coming up? And am I realizing my dreams or what can I do to do that? It's a really good time for reflection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. And
That's
then
great.
reflection too of those who have come into our lives as part of our journey. Being
Mhm.
grateful. I'm so grateful for you coming into my world. And way back when you actually worked for me for a while, right?
Yes,
Just to help me
yeah,
out and helped you out, and that we've been able to stay in touch and all the different people that have come into our world. It's been an amazing journey. That I'm so grateful that I'm now in this wellness business because I've met so many people that encourage me to actually do that. So it's been a
yes.
beautiful transition of time right now.
Yes. And I'm grateful too. It has been a wonderful connection and collaboration for both of us. And yes, we have, even back in the beginning when we first met, some very interesting connections and, friends that we didn't know that we had together. And that has grown over the years, of course. But even as we said last time we spoke, we're learning more about each other every single time, even though, we've known each other for a while now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and I think we've all had a life before we met each other. I can't tell you everything in a day. Got to keep some things to myself.
So you wanted to expand on that a little bit, far as synchronicities and people that we've met over the years.
Well, it's for me, I got thinking a lot about some people have asked me recently about why am I doing sound? Like, where did it start from? And like, and why am I being a healer? They don't see an accountant as a healer. Like, it's just the two don't mix in a lot of people's minds. And I had to think back and I went, well, it's because of my cousin Connie, who is now Dr. Constance Santiago, is a very official,
Yes. Yeah.
but she opened a store 25, 30 years ago, like a long time ago. And she called it Aurora's, and she brought in stones and those really nice happy angel cards and this little healing because she had gone on her journey to find healing for herself. So she opened this store, and I love just going to the store. She goes, I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I'm like, that's okay. I just want to sit in your store. It was like this really cool place to be. But
Energy.
one of our friends went, Con, I want you to teach us what you know because everyone kept asking her questions. She always had these magical answers. And so she was kind of like my first teacher. And I got my first level Reiki and then second and then masters. And we created these different courses together. And over the years, we've always worked together. And since then, I've met more people that keeps adding to my thing. But she's where I started. And I'm so grateful. And beautiful thing is her and I met when we were like 6 and we've always had a connection. But when it came to this healing stuff, we didn't really know it until she opened that store. And this whole other world between us opened up beautifully. And she encourages talking to different people and bringing different people into her world and stuff. And then I'm also just amazed at, we used to say that there's 6 degrees of separation between people.
Hmm.
I believe it's 2.5. Like we are so connected on so many different levels on the tiniest things. We ran a bed and breakfast and we kept running into people. Like one young guy from Ireland goes, why do you have a poster of the fort where I bought my dog? And we're like, we didn't know you bought your dog there. And the most recent was on Friday. And I guess this is what triggered me to do this. This young lady was trying to get to the business next door. He wasn't in. I invited her in. She looked at my space, went, "Oh my God, wow!" It turns out she's a singer. She's singing, producing her first album by herself. So I put her in my football, and I'm going on about, you're singing to sell out crowds, and you're like all this positive. Well, Michelle comes in, and she brings her boyfriend back. It turns out Michelle and her boyfriend knew cheerleaders in Edmonton when they were in high school together. And you just sat there and going, well, how do you two know each other? Like 30 years after you finish or 40 years after school, you run into somebody who's dating somebody who was here and it blows me away the people we run into. And there's that little tiny influence. Like watching her inspired me to go, no, I'm doing this right. This is cool. I am following my dream.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh my God, Cheryl, you helped me calm. You affirmed that this is what I want to do." And I'm like, "But you helped me as much as I helped you in that brief, literally 1 hour that we spent together."
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
I, you know,
And
I,
I can't
I
wait to see
think,
her.
I think when we were younger, this might have been happening more often, but we weren't aware of it and we weren't
Yeah.
recognizing the
Yeah.
connections as much. But I also think that the more you kind of delve into, the wellness and you start to close well, invite in other people, open up to more people who are,
Open up the blinders. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not only, more attentive and aware of it, but I think you start to attract more
Yeah.
that way too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like what you said. I like how you said that, 6 degrees of separation. Maybe if you are looking to meet with Kevin Bacon, that maybe that's true, but if
But
you just
I have a
open.
friend named Kevin and I like bacon.
And that's not even 2 degrees of separation. That's just right in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm just always in awe of the people I run into. Or we had that sound jam here a few weeks ago, and a young lady, she came with her violin while people are playing the didgeridoo and the djembe and all these other things, and they're going ba 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 really fast, and she's doing a thing. And it turns out she's a clown by career. She's this beautiful clown and she wants to teach music to little kids. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. Then on Friday, one of my friends brings her great grandchild here. We take her into my sound room, let her play on things. I'm like, oh my God, that's a thing. We should have little kids here playing sound. But just that thought came together, this thought. And I was like, oh, I got to do this, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah, that's
beautiful.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's
And
been a lot of that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just the initialization of bringing that whole sound therapy, that group in to the wellness center was kind of a, oh, you know her? Oh, you know her? Oh, well, I didn't know that was you. Oh, well,
100%.
welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, like our friend Maggie. Well, where's Arlana? Well, she doesn't want to drive all the way from Penticton to here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
And
cool. And even your book, like when you're going, my book's coming out, and my son comes home with a puppy, and I instantly like, okay, he's got to read your book, right?
yeah.
I'll share it with him, and he's going to go, my mom introduced me to this lady who wrote this book.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the synchronicities when you open up to being aware of them and to attract more of them. It is a level of awareness for sure. And I
Yeah.
look back now and think about all the things I let slide on by and I didn't recognize what they would, what they were.
And a lot of them are literally for a moment. And that's all you get in your life is that moment. You hear that, we're in each other's life, a lifetime for a lesson, for a moment kind of thing, right? But every moment is a lesson and you glean something from every relationship. There's a lot of people that I've met through the years that have literally they've gone on at somewhere else, or I've moved and they're over there, but then something triggers a memory of them. Like there was a guy I was watching on TV the other day, and I went, "Oh my God, that looks like Tyler, that massage guy I had in Red Deer. I wonder what Tyler's doing." And all of a sudden, you're thinking about him and all the connections. I'm like, oh, I remember when I learned this, and I learned this. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been obviously you can tell it's been a week for me of like this connection of past and future coming together for me. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. That's very
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. Oh.
So that's kind of what triggered what you wanted to talk about this week.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
And
cool.
even like you have your pottery, and I had a friend who's like, I got to get rid of my stuff, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get her kiln into a place where you could use it, and I want you guys to connect. And I was like, well, it's not working yet. Okay, so I put it over here for a while, but it's still here. It's still back here.
We could always put the kiln in the vault.
Actually, it just might. That might be the only place that it would be fire safe.
That's a pun, right? Well, that's interesting. I like the sound of that too. Yeah.
Okay, can we turn this into a pottery place too? Ah, okay.
It's a messy business. Pottery is a
It
messy
is.
business.
Yeah. But one of the things I've been reading was about grounding. And so it's not just take your shoes off, walk on the grass, which is my favorite thing to do, be barefoot, right? But one of the things it suggested that I was just reading in this book to go out and actually do pottery because you're touching clay and dirt and water, and it's just very grounding.
Yeah.
And I was dreaming about it the other day, and I'm like, is that why you do it, Arlana? Or are you just like creating things, or is it just your Zen grounding time?
When I first started it, I had been, through a divorce and moved to a small town from a big city and raising my kids, and I was on my own quite a bit. And I was invited to join this. And as I had been living in California. I was studying fashion design and image consulting. Yeah. And so, not that I thought of myself as kind of hoity-toity, but the people in town kind of looked at me and said, "That's what you're going to wear." But I ended up in this circle of people that were doing pottery. And I have to say, it probably was some of the most, like psychologically and mentally saved my life. That group of people were so amazing and so welcoming. And yes, pottery is one of the most grounding. And you're working with all the elements, air, water, fire, you know, every element, earth, of course. It really takes all of those elements to come up with a finished product. And
Right?
I found it
Aren't you
so, yeah.
grateful for all those people, those lessons, everything you learned?
Yes, yes. My most precious like spiritual mentor was from that time, and she was in the pottery club, and I didn't want to go to pottery. I had a friend, somebody I just met there says, "Let's go to pottery," and I go, and I can't. Don't want to stick my hands in the mud. I don't really want to do that. And so finally it was like, Arlana, let's go. It would be good for you to meet some people. And it became a running joke because I went the following week and I kept going for years. She never did show up.
Oh,
So,
really?
so every time we'd run into each other downtown, it's like, well, see you at pottery? See you at pottery. No, she never did show up. But
Wow.
she coaxed me into going, and it was exactly the who and the what and the how that I needed.
That's awesome. Did she ever buy your pottery?
I don't know. I don't
Huh.
know that.
Hmm.
So when I moved there, I didn't know anybody. And
Right.
she just happened to be the wife of a friend that my husband knew. So, I mean, I was brand new to the community. I didn't have any connections there whatsoever. So for her to suggest pottery and then, just leave me off to you know, my
Yeah.
own devices, was
But look
pretty
at you now.
amazing. I have no idea.
Yeah. You have this huge passion in pottery. I've got a couple of your mugs. I love the color choices. I got your paintings. It's just like these beautiful colors that you always pick. So you know your training that you've done in the past, color design, all that sort of stuff is coming through in your intuitive ability of art. And if it weren't for those people at the beginning, that path may not have come this way. It might have come in a different way. Like it might have come something else, but I think it's so cool that they were some of
Well,
your beginning peoples.
it was a combination of because I'd been involved in art all my life. So this was just a new form of art and the grounding aspects. But the circle that it pulled me into was really the start of my spiritual awakening. Because I ended up going to sessions about stuff that I had never heard of before. I ended up going to Florida with her and her mom's mom, and
Oh,
I broke my leg before we went. We were going through the airport, if you can imagine this, lined up, wheelchair, 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 and Lynette was the only one that could walk. She pushed all three of us, pushing each other through the airport. And while we were down there, she took me to see Greg Braden. Now
I know the name. I
I
know the
didn't
name.
know I didn't know Greg Braden from a hole in the ground back then, but he's the man he's written several books on quantum physics. He's kind of like the forefather groundbreaking, speaker about combining, spirituality with our, our physical life, our bodies, our, how we
Yeah.
connect to one another. And wow, I mean, that was just the start, of all this. And yeah, it's really powerful, what, if we're open to it, what is presented before us.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have met her anyways, maybe, but the fact that I actually did overcome my fear of putting my hands in the mud and I met Lynette is
Yeah.
just, it changed my world. It changed
Yeah.
my whole life.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And that's where started. Like Connie changed my life. Right. And it's just, these are the things, but like you said, who's to say that you still wouldn't have done it, but it would have been maybe happened in a different way. But it was that time, those people, this event that things
Well,
switched.
look at what it took me. It took me from living in Orange County, LA, and thousands and thousands of people. This
Yeah.
little town that I ended up in had a population of 700 people.
Oh, geez.
So, we went from living in the big, big city
Yeah.
to moving to a small town. I mean, really small, rural Alberta. So,
Not a lot of room for designer people and stuff.
no, no. But the thought of, in a big city, maybe I would have had another opportunity, many different opportunities to meet my spiritual mentor, right? But
Right.
I went from that to, 700 people. You know, what was it that got me to her, right? In
Yeah.
this small town out in the middle of nowhere, right? And I have
Yeah.
some really dear friends that I've kept in touch
Yeah.
with all these years from that small town.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That
the
is so cool.
synchronicities and the connections, it's just it's just amazing. There was
Yeah.
a meme
It's
on,
all the yeses that led to today that got us here. And you've never gone off the path of spirituality since. It's evolved in what you've done, but that's always like this is what you want to do. You're here to help other people.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's also the interesting foundation of it all is really and truly I was in way over my head. I had no idea what they were talking about. Probably the first couple years, I just kept going to the meetings. She just kept taking me to meet new people and learn new things, and I really didn't know even what I was learning. And then as the years progressed, and I would come into different situations or meet other people, it starts to make sense.
You're right.
Then it starts to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting because I just was open to it, and I was lucky because my parents were also very open. My parents
Yeah.
were, not, they didn't talk about spirituality and stuff a lot, but they
Neither
were
did my
very,
parents.
I learned my dad was into numerology, my mom was into astrology, so while they were not, like the hippie generation, so to speak, this was important. We couldn't move into a house unless the numbers were right,
Nice.
and
I like that.
we were all named with numerology. So,
Nice.
it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. No, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't have that spirituality growing up, but I do remember after my dad's mom passed, and I went to see somebody read my tarot cards, and they started describing these two ladies that they could see standing beside me, and they described his grandmother to a T in the pictures that I remember. And I phoned up my dad and I went, Dad, I think your grandma is following me everywhere I go. And he went, I'm not surprised because she hovered over my mom when she was pregnant. And she
Wow.
died 6 months later. There's one picture of her holding me as a baby, and that was it. That I don't know her as a person, just pictures, right? And my dad's like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm like,
Oh,
I was waiting for him to go, what do you mean you're talking about somebody, right? But he was actually open to say that. I'm like, oh, that was cool. My dad accepts this.
That's an interesting connection to make after so long and not realizing, isn't that? That's beautiful.
Yeah, and since then she's been around, and she's not so much the last couple of years, but it's I when I tell my dad, he just goes, "Yeah, I'm not surprised." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." Like, and it's never like we went to United Church for a while. They stopped going, so I didn't have that outgoing. They just knew Cheryl was the hippie child who wanted to take care of the world. Right? Cheryl's a girl who went off and on. We're going to shave her legs. We're not going to shave her legs. We are wearing the hippie skirts. We're going to save the world as much as they can. And they just like, yeah, yeah, that's Cheryl and her little hippie ways kind of thing. Right.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a moment of, wow, Dad, you actually accept this stuff. That's pretty cool.
That's
You
very
know?
cool.
And my mom would laugh at me as I was learning these things when my cousin and I started training. I'm visiting her. She had a friend come over, sit down, and my friend looks at her friend, says, "So, mom tells me you have skills." And I'm like, "What do you mean I have skills?" She goes, "Oh, you're doing something spiritual." And I'm like, "Okay, so I've learned to read psychometry where I can hold on to something of somebody's and I can pick up their energy. And I tend to be one that picks up the physical energy, like what's going on in their body. I'm like, okay, give me your ring. I held on to it and I instantly was pain, shoulders back. I threw the ring back at her when I can't do it. She goes, what? I said, your shoulder hurts too much, your back hurts too much, blah, blah, blah. And she just looked at me like, how'd you know? And I'm like, well, I didn't know. I just knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just like, and they all went, oh, so Cheryl does have a skill. But that wasn't until my kids were like 10 years old already.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 36 years old when this is starting to be kind of a normalized thing in our world. It was interesting. Now they all expect it from me.
Well, and I talk about this in the book a little bit too, is the fact that some of us who identify with some of these skill sets when we're really young, first of all, you don't realize that anybody else is different than that anybody experiences anything different than you do. You think
Right.
everybody must do that.
Right.
And then when you
Yeah.
find out that you're different, then you worry that they're going to judge you because you're different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so until you find your tribe or your circle where you feel safe enough to open up and be who you are and express these things, it can be challenging.
Yeah. And so thankful for those few people that came into our world
Oh, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
wake it
And
all
that we,
up.
we both stayed on that path. I mean, there were waves of not so close and a little closer and
100%, 100%. You know, I
yeah.
spend a lot of years, like I said, I've been 40 years in the accounting world, but there are many, many, many of my meetings where I'm kind of the half counselor person and healing and
The
helping
bartender.
somebody find ways to relax and go to sleep at night and helping people go, it's okay. You're,
Yeah.
I went bankrupt too, you know, and just being able to be at everyone else's level and be okay with it, not judge. I think that in itself, I think was an ability that I've always been able to do. When I was a child, I hung out with the kid that used to break and enter and steal. My mom's like, you can't hang out with him. He's a thief. I'm like, yes, but mom, he doesn't do it when he's with me. And mom like, oh, like didn't think I could influence him kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've always been the helper.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
just
And
very grateful for all these
I think
people.
we do that. I mean, what's natural to us, no matter what job you're in, it feels natural to be in that role, right?
It totally does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're getting down to the end of our time, so I think I mean, we found our way, we wove our way through it, but we still were pretty much on track. It's all about the connections and bringing people together and accepting that and being open to more of it coming our way, right? And that
And
goes,
for me, it's now we get to share it.
yeah,
Now we know what we know. Now we can share it with others. And that's what I think is very beautiful that we get to do this like in this platform even today.
yeah,
This is a beautiful
absolutely,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Yeah.
again, Cheryl. That was so much fun,
That's
and
awesome.
we'll be posting hopefully weekly, so we'll let you know where we're going to be, when we're going to be, and we hope you guys will tag along and like, share, and comment, and get other people coming in and let's build community and share this information and, you know,
Absolutely. That's awesome. I love you.
okay.
See you
Thank you
soon.
so much. Blessings. Namaste.